Okay, we're live.
There we go.
Okay, I think we're live. I think here we are. So good afternoon. It's Stephanie Evelo here with the Evelo Team at Keller Realty, and today we just wanted to have a conversation about the PPP, what many people have heard and are having a lot of questions about and asking a lot of questions. So today I want to just have a conversation with Todd Baden. And Todd, could you just introduce yourself and tell us why we should be having a conversation with you, and why the Evelo Team is chosen to have you on here to talk about this today?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Steph. My name is Todd Baden. I live in Texas. My wife of 10 years and 3 little kiddos. And I'm a licensed CPA actually in the state of Colorado. But that's just more of a formality to share that with you. But I'm a CPA. I'm also the CFO of a large megachurch down here in Dallas, Texas. And this is just kind of my world. This is what I live in. This is what I breathe. This is what God's kind of created me to do. And so now that we've launched this, in this crisis, and you've got legislation, kind of doing all sorts of things, there's this really fun, and helpful aspect of the stimulus bill. That's the Payroll Protection Program. And so I've dived into it, tracked it through the House and the Senate, and have read the bill myself. And so one of the things I've just been doing the last couple of weeks is just disseminating this information, and just, it's, just kind of my motivation is to help people. I care about people. And Hannah and I, we've been friends for a long time. We went to college together. We were in a business club together. As nerdy as that sounds, it was. So just really happy to be able to support her. And just happy to be able to be a part of it.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge, because we know we keep getting asked a lot of questions about this. And we just want to make sure to provide this as a resource to all of our friends who do own small businesses, and maybe this can help them make it through this shift in the COVID timeframe. So, so can you just start out with just what is the PPP loan, and who does it apply for and such?
Yeah, awesome. So I think most people are probably aware of the $2 trillion, CARES Act, the big $2 trillion stimulus package that's come out of this to help support not only people, but businesses, through this COVID-19 crisis. So there's a subsection of that $2 trillion that's specific for small businesses. And so there's about $350 billion that's been set aside for small businesses to access to continue to pay people. So the entire purpose of the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, is to protect payroll, to keep people employed, here in these next couple months, kind of basically to the end of the summer. And so small businesses for this purposes is defined as any organization that has less than 500 employees. And when I say organization, I mean all the way down to an independent contractor or a self-employed person. So you don't actually have to have multiple employees. You can be the only employee and still apply for this Payroll Protection Program. And so just simply, the program is designed to influx businesses with cash to be able to pay their payroll and keep people paid for 2.5 months. And then what's the really cool aspect about this is that you start it as a loan. But if you do use the funds to pay payroll, then that loan actually gets 100% forgiven. So that's what this is. An incredible part about this program is that it really ends up becoming a grant, ends up becoming this federally funded grant that helps keep people employed. And so that's what makes this super fun and exciting, is that there's this opportunity here to kind of get you through the next 2.5 months. Even if you don't have revenue coming in like you're used to.
Yeah, and so from that, one of the greatest questions would be, of course, how much is the loan for, or how much can people get for it?
Yep, great question. So the way that you would calculate the loan is you're going to take all your payroll costs that you've had for basically you take the last 12 months, and you add up all your payroll costs. That's your salary, commissions, if you've paid health benefits to your employees, if you've paid retirement contributions on behalf of your employees, all of those things, the insurance premiums included, can be added together to come up with your 12-month total. You're going to divide that by 12 to come up with your average monthly payroll costs, and then you're going to get 2.5 months of that. So you take your average payroll cost times 2.5, that's the loan amount that you're going to be qualified for.
And so how does this compare to, because I know a lot of questions that we've got asked is, what's the difference between the PPP, the Payroll Protection Plan, or the compared to the disaster relief loan for up to $10,000?
Yeah. That's also a great question, because that has been definitely one of the things that's been kind of confusing. And so what the SBA, the Small Business Administration, SBA, their normal course of business, or like kind of what they do, is they provide loans to small businesses when they can't get funding somewhere else. So they've got bad credit, or they just can't find a bank that's willing to take to give them a certain loan. And so the SBA is in general, regardless of crisis, is available doing those things. Then you have a subsection of the SBA activities that they want to give loans even further to when there's economic injury. And so when you mentioned the disaster relief loan, it's actually the economic injury disaster relief. And so loan, you might hear it as EIDL. And so in excuse me, in EIDL, actually the loan can be more than $10,000. And so it's kind of based off of kind of what you need through that time period. But outside of what's happening right now with COVID, again, like thinking like a year ago, you could get an EIDL loan. You'd have to pay it back, low interest rate, long term. So the $10,000 though, that's kind of perked up right now, is that's actually part of kind of this COVID disaster relief effort. Is that the disaster relief fund is actually offering $10,000 of the loan to be a grant. And so again, a grant being you don't have to pay it back. So you could actually get a $50,000 disaster relief loan and have 10,000 of it that you don't have to repay. So it's not really, I just want to make sure that's clear. It's not just the 10,000 piece, but the exciting part about the 10,000 is you don't have to pay it back. That's completely separate from the Payroll Protection Program. So they're two completely separate, completely different. And so and you can apply for both. That's again, some of the confusion, but where folks thought they wouldn't be able to do both. The SBA has come out and said, you can absolutely apply for both, apply for the Payroll Protection Program, apply for the disaster relief, $10,000 grant. What you can't do is use them for the same thing, right? So you can't use the payroll protection to pay somebody $10,000 and then also use the disaster relief to pay someone $10,000. And so what you're seeing is a lot of businesses trying to make sure that they've got those amounts separate, so they can show, hey, this is what we use the payroll protection for. This is what we use the disaster relief funds for. And even though you can pay payroll out of payroll protection, you can also pay payroll out of the disaster relief fund, but you can also use the disaster relief fund for more. So you can use them for overhead, utilities. And so that's where you can kind of have this strategy of, we're not going to pay payroll with disaster relief. That's what we're going to use the PPP for. That way we don't have this overlap on accident and then end up having a violation. Sounds harsh, but you would end up not being able to forgive a portion of that if it was duplicated. So that's the difference between the two.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, that was one of the questions that a lot of people, of course, ask is, can you do both? So thanks for answering that. One of the other questions comes up is, if someone is self-employed but have not paid themselves payroll, can they apply?
Yeah. So what's tough about the answer to this question is going back to the calculation of what you're eligible for. You're eligible for your payroll costs that you've had over the last year. So if you haven't paid yourself, whatever reason, you might be stashing money into your business. You might not have the record keeping to be able to show that you've paid yourself some of those things. Then you don't have anything to support what your payroll costs are. So that is a little bit of a downer for some, or some probably sitting there going, oh shoot. But I just don't see a way that you can go to the bank, apply for the payroll protection loan without having payroll costs to identify. So yeah, that's probably the simplest way we can just kind of answer that question.
Okay, awesome. And then next question, of course, is how can someone apply? So if somebody's wanting to apply or has not applied yet, how can they apply? And are there specific banks that you should be talking to?
Yeah. So there's, and I see the question here, about should someone apply for both, going back to disaster relief and the payroll protection. Because they're completely separate, you apply for them different ways. So the payroll protection program, you apply through a local bank. It could be a national bank, regional bank, but like you actually go to, and I'm not suggesting you physically go somewhere right now, but to be able to, go to your bank and start the process for the payroll protection program. So because the way that the money is going to flow is it's coming from the federal government to the SBA to a local bank. The SBA is saying, hey, there's going to be so much activity and applications for this. We can't administer all these requests. So we're going to use the thousands of banks that are out there in all cities to be able to actually administer the application process and the administration of the funds and the forgiveness of it. So if you're wanting to apply for the payroll protection program, what you're going to want to do today, and to use today to come up with those payroll costs, but reach out to your bank today. Let them know that you're interested. Get their application. One of the chaotic things that are going on right now is that you've got a lot of banks that are part of this now that all have different requirements because the bill is very high level, and then you've got banks interpreting that, and then they're kind of going through their own process to administer. So like Bank of America might have a different qualification and application process than Wells Fargo, or Bank of Indianapolis, or fill in the blank for what bank you use. And so you're going to want to start just with your local bank. Now, again, one of the downsides of administering through your local banks is that they actually end up getting a choice of if they want to participate or not. So we've actually are finding, it's disappointing to find this out, but a lot of banks are choosing not to participate. And so you've got banks that have dealt with SBA for a long time saying, hey, it's just not worth it. Because again, another benefit of this PPP is that there's no loan origination fees and the interest rate is really low. Well, how do banks make money on loans? They make them through, and realtors, you're going to be very familiar with this, is, they make their money on the origination fees, and then they make their money on the interest. And so you've got banks actually bowing out saying it's not worth it. So,
and it's funny that you're mentioning that, because actually Hannah and I just had that conversation this morning. It's just what is the benefit to a bank to do this, right? To do one of these loans for someone.
Yeah, I would say the benefit is helping the country get through a really hard time. So
right.
That, the federal government did that for them back in 2008. And so it's a little bit disappointing. If America chooses to do that, Wells Fargo chooses to do that, Chase chooses to do that. I actually found out this morning that you going to those banks and saying to get involved. I think they're pulling some strings there. So you've actually have some indication of them changing their tune on that. But there's going to be a lot of banks though that still continue to choose to not participate. You also have banks choosing to make it a little bit harder, or they're trying to find benefit, by administering these loans. And so you might run into your bank requiring you to open a credit card or open a line of credit. Again, I'm super disappointed to hear that banks are choosing to do that. In my opinion, they're bountying, holding this ransom, which I don't think is right. But that's just personal opinion there. But you might run into that. I'm saying this as you might run into that. Don't be surprised. So, but you're gonna want to start today because there is funds that are available.
And that's what that's one of the questions. How long does it take to get the loan approved and then funded? Any idea?
Yeah, so that is again going to be very dependent on your bank. So I've been teaching this last week, on Facebook Lives and for other groups. And so I've actually had people call me this morning and say, Todd, we had no clue about this until we watched your video. We didn't have the confidence to go forward until we asked them some questions that you've answered. And they called me this morning to say, thank you, because we've been approved and this is going to change our outlook on the next couple of months. And I'm sitting here where, we've applied it for our church, and my wife has a small business and we've applied it for her, and we're still sitting in pending status. So you've got folks that have been approved and you've got folks that haven't been. So there isn't necessarily an exact time frame I can give you. I know, again, there's so many applications that it really comes down to how fast they can get through those requests and make those processing pieces. So.
Okay. And so then last question, how does the follow-up work once the loan is received? And so the bank itself is going to be contacting you about whether you're approved or not?
Well, yeah. So that I'm assuming the banks are going to say, hey, you've been approved.
Right.
Communicate that to you.
And then what happened? That's what I was just going to say. And then do we know what happens after that? Do we know
so then
what that looks like?
There probably will be some delay in getting approved application and then actual funding of the loan. And so the reason, and I'm just guessing here, is that I'm not sure if the banking industry has $350 billion of liquidity to just pass out. So my guess is there's going to be a funnel of money from the federal government to the banks. So there might be a little bit of a delay between, there's going to be a delay between you applying, being approved, and funding. And so again, I don't know exactly what that time frame looks like. Just be aware that it might not happen instantly. It might. Awesome. But just be in constant contact with your bank. When you do get the funds, there's again a little bit of confusion on if it's 8 weeks or if it's 10 weeks, but at the end of the summer, so basically kind of shooting for like June 30th or so, it's going to be your responsibility to sync back up with your bank and actually apply for the forgiveness. When I say apply for the forgiveness, is you've got to go to your bank and show them that you've used the funds in those appropriate ways, right? Because you could apply for this loan, fire everybody, and not use it for payroll at all. You could do that. Don't do that, but you could do that. So,
right.
So go to the bank and say, hey, here's our documentation. Here's how we pay people. Here's how we pay benefits. We've done exactly what the program is intended for. And so at that point, they will then forgive the loan. And there might be variance there too, right? You might have actually people that, again, there could be all these reasons on why you don't fulfill that total amount. So when I say that, is like you got a $30,000 loan, you actually spent 27. Well, then you have $3,000 that's not eligible to be forgiven. Now that's okay, because again, like the incentive and the whole purpose of this is to pay people. So if you didn't use the full funds, that means you still have those funds. So paying, so if $3,000 isn't forgiven, well, you have that $3,000 just to pay back the loan and everything's square, right? And so, but you're going to have to initiate that process. And you're going to have to come with that documentation of here are those qualified, and those qualified costs are the payroll aspects, the same way that you're highlighting or that you're calculating the amount. So but that will be on you to initiate that at the end of the summer, at the end of June.
Okay, awesome. Anything else that you think that you've shared that have been the most commonly asked questions or things that people want to know about? Have we covered everything that you think everybody needs to know? Or
things that people are kind of like, I don't know what to do. Where do I start? Start with getting as much information as you can. Take a second just to breathe. Think about if you were loaning money to somebody, what would you want to see?
Right.
So, and come with more information to your bank than maybe you think you need to, because what you don't want to do is have a delay because you've given them a partial amount, or they come back and say, hey, we want some more things as we underwrite this. If you just are prepared with everything, you just don't invite the obstacles of timing into this. So, bring your 941s, bring it here. Here's how I calculated all these things. Here's my 941s to show that these are reasonable amounts. Here's my insurance premiums that I've paid. Here's the retirements, payments that we've made. Print those invoices out, put them in a folder, like just kind of go as much information as you can to give them, to just just be ready. And because again, like there just isn't, this isn't unlimited funding. So you just don't want to risk missing out because you weren't ready.
You just want to be truthful about what you're asking for and use it for the proper things so that you're not caught doing something you shouldn't have been doing later on that will come back as repercussions, basically.
Absolutely.
Bottom line, right?
Yeah,
I'm just using super layman's terms, right?
Yeah, bottom line.
Like just do what you're supposed to do and be truthful and do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
So
great point, Steph, because there are going to be some people that see this video and your business is rocking and you've got more, you know, I have a friend that he owns a tortilla business. Well, he's had the best 2 months of his business here in the last 2 months because everybody, you know, like their stores are selling out of tortillas, you know, so like, so my advice to him, he didn't ask me this, but my advice to him would be, don't apply for this. You don't need it. You're rocking, you're going forward, right? And so that's actually even part of the application process is you have to give a good faith verification that you need this to get the next couple of months. So that is just, and just take that mentality of like, and there are going to be some people that really do need this. And if you get approved for it and you don't need it, and it's just extra money for you, kind of take that perspective, like be neighborly, be invested in other people, right? And just kind of see it for what it is. It's to really help people that are not going to be able to put food on their tables next week because they don't have a job. So that's a great step to just raise that for everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. Anything else that you want to leave with? Anything else that you want to?
We have a couple of questions. We want to hit some of these. We've got, will the PPP cover W-2 salary and dividend payments you have taken as a single member of LLC who files an S Corp? So yeah, great question. So S Corp qualifies as long as you have less than 500 employees. So S Corps can absolutely apply for this. So dividends are not qualified payroll costs, right? And that's actually one of the benefits of the S Corp is that not all of the income coming through your S Corp is taxed at your normal rate. It's actually taxed at a lower rate at your the capital gains rate. So that's not going to be qualified compensation because it's not compensation, it's a dividend. So so again, see that for what it is though, is that you're getting the benefit of having a lower tax rate on that income. So, but then the salary aspect that you've designated for you and any of your members of that S Corp, that will be what's qualified for you to add those things up.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. And sorry, yes, I'm actually here commuting to our in-laws' house. We haven't seen them for weeks, of course, with all the social distancing. So we're traveling. Sorry, I was hoping to be stationary before this call started. So sorry about the bumpiness in my side here, but thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that we did get this recorded and out because I think it's so timely. Because so many small businesses, you know, are crunching and crunching numbers and challenged financially right now. And so we just want to make sure that this is a resource to all of our friends and all the small business owners that we know to make sure that they get applying and doing what they need to do to make it through this shift. Because we really want to see them continuing through this shift as well. So thank you so much, Todd, for joining us. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. We appreciate you, and we'll let you know if anybody else has other additional questions. Absolutely. And just appreciate your help helping us to help others help themselves.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
Thank you so much. And I always end everyone with is remember to make each moment count, right? And especially in these times. So make each moment count. Thanks so much for Todd for being here, and thanks so much for everybody for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care.
Thanks, and bye-bye.